When your best friend calls at 3 in the morning and says he's sorry, but he has to show you something, know that your life is about to change forever. I couldn't sleep after that call. Mark had never been dramatic, so when he asked to meet in the morning at a coffee shop on the other side of Indianapolis, I understood. This was serious. My name is Paul, I'm 32 years old. I'm just a regular office worker at an insurance company. My wife Linda works as a secretary at a law firm. We've been together for 7 years, we have a 5-year-old daughter Emmy. Everything seemed to be going its course. A house in the suburbs, stable jobs, plans for the future. Mark was sitting by the window, nervously twirling a glass of coffee. When I approached, he simply handed me his phone. On the screen was a photo from a music festival that took place last weekend. Linda said she was going with girlfriends from work. In the photo, she was kissing a man I'd never seen before. "Who is this?" was all I could manage to say. "I don't know. But they looked very close." "Sorry, man." I returned home in some kind of trance. Linda was making breakfast for Emmy, smiling, talking about plans for the day. As always, as if nothing had happened. The next few days I lived in a parallel reality. During the day, a loving wife; in the evening, someone else? I started noticing small things. Phone always face down. Shower immediately after work. New perfume. Then I remembered the shared cloud account we hadn't used in a long time. Linda probably forgot about it. Her phone photos were stored there. What I saw turned everything upside down. Dozens of photos with him. In restaurants, hotels, even in our house when I was at work. Messages in the messenger. They met on Tinder a year ago. A year. His name was Jim, an entrepreneur, owner of several gyms. In the correspondence, she wrote that I was boring, predictable, that with him she felt alive. But the worst was yet to come. Reading through their messages, I realized this had been going on for 12 months. 12 months of lies, secret meetings, and elaborate cover stories. I could have just left. Filed for divorce. But something inside me boiled over. She didn't just cheat, she built an entire double life. That's when I remembered cryptocurrency. 6 months ago, I invested a small amount in Bitcoin as an experiment. It was my personal money from bonuses. Linda didn't even know about it. During this time, the amount had tripled. I quickly transferred all my savings into crypto on a cold wallet, which only I had access to. I wanted to secure our finances before everything fell apart. The next time Linda said she was going to a party with girlfriends, I was ready. I asked my mom to watch Emmy, took the car and followed at a safe distance. She parked near an expensive restaurant downtown. 10 minutes later, Jim arrived, tall, smiling, in an expensive suit. They hugged as if they hadn't seen each other for months, although from the correspondence I knew they'd met the day before yesterday. I sat in the car, filming everything on my phone. Their exit from the restaurant. The trip to the hotel. Enough evidence for any court. At home I started preparing. Hired a lawyer, transferred the house to my name through a loophole in the documents that my lawyer found. It turned out that when buying, Linda hadn't signed one important page. I collected all evidence of the affair, printed out correspondence. But I decided not to rush. I came up with a plan that went beyond ordinary divorce. Through a colleague from work, I found out that Jim was married. He had 2 children and a wife who didn't even suspect his adventures. His business largely depended on investments from her father. I contacted Jim's wife anonymously, sending her all the evidence. Photos, correspondence, hotel bills. Everything neat, without emotions, just facts. The explosion happened 2 days later. Jim's wife filed for divorce and demanded half the business. Her father withdrew his investments. Jim found himself on the verge of bankruptcy. When Linda found out, she was hysterical. Called Jim for hours, cried. I pretended I didn't know anything, supported her, asked what happened. Then came my turn. I calmly put a folder of documents in front of her at dinner. "What is this?" she asked. "Divorce papers. Evidence of your cheating. And, by the way, the house is now registered to me because you forgot to sign documents when buying. The lawyer says it's legally valid." Linda first froze, then began to deny, beg, cry. She said it was a mistake, that she loved me, that there was nothing serious with Jim. A year, Linda. A whole year of lies. I wanted to end it. Jim promised. Jim is now bankrupt himself. His wife took everything. Her face went pale. "It was you told her?" I just showed the truth. Like my friend showed me. The following weeks were difficult. Linda tried to fight, but the evidence was undeniable. My lawyer was merciless. The court left the house to me, established my full custody of Emmy with Linda's right to limited visits. But the cruelest thing was that Jim, having lost everything, blamed Linda. He said she pursued him herself, that he wanted to break off the relationship. Their messages where she wrote about love, he showed as evidence of harassment. Linda lost her job. The scandal reached her office. She had to move to her mother's small apartment on the other side of town. One evening, 3 months after the divorce, she came to pick up Emmy for the weekend. She looked tired, aged. Paul, I'm so sorry. I destroyed everything. I loved you. Really loved. Just what, Linda? Just felt invisible. I worked, Emmy, housework. When Jim started paying attention to me, I felt like a woman again, not just a mom and housewife. I was silent. Part of me understood. But a bigger part remembered the year of lies. I'm not making excuses, she continued. I made a terrible mistake. Several mistakes. But I want Emmy to know, I love her. And I loved you. Real love was with you, not with him. Then why did you do it? Because I was stupid. I thought passion was more important than trust. Now I know I was wrong. Emmy ran out of the room, joyfully hugged her mom. Looking at them, I felt something strange. Not forgiveness, but understanding. Another month later, Linda came again. Not for Emmy, our daughter was at daycare. I found a job, she said. Not as prestigious but honest. I went through therapy. I understand now that I ran away from problems instead of talking to you. Linda, I'm not asking you to take me back. I just want you to know, what I felt for Jim was fake. An illusion. What was real was what was between us. I realized this when I lost everything. I looked at this woman I had lived with for 7 years. Who gave birth to my daughter. Who betrayed me, destroyed our lives. And who was now sincerely repenting. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, I said honestly. I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for a chance to prove I can be better. Not for us, for Emmy. The following months showed that Linda really had changed. She regularly visited a therapist, spent quality time with Emmy. No more lies, even in small things. One day we were sitting in the kitchen after Linda brought Emmy home. I made coffee, like in the old days. Do you have anyone? She suddenly asked. No. For now, I'm focused on Emmy. Paul, I know I destroyed our marriage. But is there even the slightest chance? Someday? I was silent for a long time, looking into my cup. The rational part of me screamed, no. But my heart remembered 7 years together. Emmy's birth. Laughter. Dreams about the future. Maybe, I finally said. But not now. And not soon. You need to prove yourself not with words but with years. If you really want to regain trust, it will be a long road. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm ready. Even if it takes a lifetime. Another year later, we started dating again. Slowly, carefully, like strangers learning to trust. Family therapy. Honest conversations. New rules. Jim disappeared from our lives. The last I heard, he moved to another state, still dealing with his own divorce. 2 years after the divorce, we got married again. A quiet ceremony, only the closest ones. Emmy was the flower girl, the happiest child in the world. Did I forgive completely? No. There are things that aren't forgotten. But I learned to live with them. Linda too, she carries the burden of her mistake every day. Our second life together is completely different. More conversations, fewer misunderstandings. More presence, less routine. We both know how fragile trust can be. Sometimes, at night, I look at sleeping Linda and think about that call from Mark. About the photos. About the pain. And about the strange path that brought us back to each other. This isn't a fairy tale about a happy ending. This is a story about how sometimes the most terrible mistakes can teach the most important lessons. That revenge can be fair, but forgiveness is stronger. That love can be different, passionate and fake, or deep and real. And that family is a choice we make every day. Even after betrayal. Even after pain. Especially after them. But what I haven't told anyone, not even Linda, is what really happened during those dark months of our separation. You see, I'm not just an ordinary office worker. For the past 3 years, I've been studying cybersecurity in my free time. When I discovered Linda's affair through that cloud account, I didn't just document it. I traced every digital footprint of their relationship. What I found was disturbing. Jim had done this before. I discovered social media traces of 3 other women, all married, all having had affairs with him around the same time frame. He would romance them, make grand promises about their future together, then vanish when things got complicated or when his interest waned. When I sent evidence to Jim's wife, I also compiled everything I'd found about his pattern of behavior. The man wasn't just unfaithful, he was a serial cheater who specifically targeted married women. His wife deserved to know the full scope of what she was dealing with. The night before our final divorce hearing, something unexpected happened. I received an email from one of the other women Jim had been involved with. Somehow, through mutual connections or perhaps Jim's wife had reached out, she'd learned about my situation. Her message was heartbreaking. She described how Jim had manipulated her, made her feel special and valued in ways her husband hadn't in years. She'd nearly left her family for him, only to discover he was simultaneously pursuing 2 other women. The revelation had devastated her, but unlike Linda, she'd managed to keep her affair secret from her husband. She was writing to warn me that Jim was dangerous, not physically but emotionally. A man who knew exactly how to exploit vulnerable people. During my divorce proceedings, I could have used this information to completely destroy Linda's reputation. My lawyer had everything prepared to paint her as part of a pattern, as someone who willingly participated in Jim's schemes. But reading that email changed something in my perspective. Yes, Linda betrayed me. Yes, she made terrible choices. But she was also manipulated by someone who'd perfected the art of seduction and deception. She was stupid and unfaithful, but she didn't deserve to be portrayed as a calculating villain. At the divorce hearing, I made a choice that surprised everyone. I told the judge that while I couldn't remain married to Linda, I recognized that our marriage had been failing long before Jim appeared. I requested that the proceedings focus on Emmy's well-being rather than assigning blame. My lawyer looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Linda's eyes filled with tears. The judge, surprisingly, appreciated the approach. But here's what nobody knew: the cryptocurrency I'd converted our savings into? It had increased tenfold by then. I had enough to rebuild my life and secure Emmy's future. The divorce wasn't about punishing Linda financially, it was about establishing clear boundaries and protecting my daughter. Over the next months, as Linda worked to rebuild her life, something unexpected happened. She started attending a support group for people recovering from toxic relationships. She met others like her, people who'd made terrible choices under the influence of manipulative partners. One evening she asked to meet me at a coffee shop. Not to discuss Emmy, not to beg for reconciliation, but to show me something. "I'm volunteering at a crisis center," she said, showing me a brochure. "Helping people who've been in manipulative relationships. Sharing my story anonymously to help others recognize warning signs. It doesn't undo what I did, but maybe it prevents someone else from making my mistakes." I read through the materials. They focused on emotional manipulation tactics, the psychology of affairs, and the importance of communication in marriages. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because you deserve to know that what I did wasn't about you being inadequate. You were everything a husband should be. Jim was someone who saw vulnerability and exploited it. I'm telling you this because if there's ever a chance for us again, you need to know it wasn't your fault. It was mine for being vulnerable to manipulation, but it wasn't because you failed as a husband." That conversation shifted something in me. I'd spent months wondering what I'd done wrong, how I'd failed to keep my wife satisfied. Learning about Jim's pattern, seeing Linda take responsibility while also understanding the manipulation, helped me release some of the anger I'd been carrying. Jim eventually remarried, quickly, to another woman he'd met during his divorce. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was already showing signs of the same behavior. Some people never change. But Linda did change. Her transformation wasn't performative or designed to win me back. It was genuine, painful growth that happened whether I was watching or not. During year 2 of our separation, something unexpected happened. Emmy started having nightmares. She'd wake up crying, asking if mommy and daddy stopped loving each other because of something she did. Child psychology is heartbreaking. Kids always blame themselves. Linda and I started doing joint family therapy sessions focused on Emmy. The therapist suggested we needed to present a united front, to show Emmy that even though we weren't together, we could still be a functional family unit. Those therapy sessions became weekly. Then twice weekly. Sometimes Emmy wouldn't even be there. It would just be Linda and me working through our own trauma so we could better parent our daughter. Dr. Martinez, our therapist, asked hard questions. She asked me about my role in the marriage falling apart. I bristled at first. I wasn't the cheater. But she pushed. "Paul, I'm not excusing Linda's choices. But marriages don't thrive or fail in a vacuum. Tell me about the last year before the affair started. What was your marriage like?" I had to admit, it was stale. We'd fallen into roommate mode. Work, Emmy, household chores, collapse into bed exhausted, repeat. When was the last time we'd had a real conversation? When had we last been intimate? When had I last told her she was beautiful, that I valued her? I was taking her for granted, I admitted. Not as an excuse for cheating but as context. We'd both checked out emotionally. The difference is I buried myself in work and didn't notice. She looked for validation elsewhere. Linda was crying. I should have talked to you. That's what adults do. Instead, I let my ego and insecurities guide me into destruction. Dr. Martinez nodded. What you're both describing is the foundation for rebuilding. Not necessarily rebuilding romance, but rebuilding respect and understanding. For Emmy's sake, but also for your own healing. Month by month, the hostility between us softened. We weren't lovers, weren't even really friends, but we became effective co-parents and eventually something like companions. About 18 months after our divorce, Linda asked me to meet her at the park where I'd proposed 7 years earlier. I've completed everything the court required, she said simply, showing me documentation. I've honored every agreement we made. Not because I had to, but because it was right. I know, I said. And I did. I'd been tracking it all along. Paul, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear it fully before you respond. I nodded. I'm dating someone. His name is Robert. He's a teacher, divorced, has a daughter Emmy's age. We've been seeing each other for 2 months. It's slow, it's careful, and it's nothing like what I had with Jim. I'm telling you because Emmy will meet him eventually, and I wanted you to hear it from me first. The jealousy that hit me was unexpected. We were divorced. I had no claim on her life. But still it stung. Is it serious? I asked. It could be. He's a good man. Patient. He knows everything about my past, about what I did. He's helping me learn what healthy love looks like. I should have been happy for her. Instead, I felt something break open in my chest, something I'd been keeping locked away. I don't want you to date someone else, I said quietly. Linda looked shocked. Paul? I know I have no right. I know you've moved on, that you're building something healthy. But these past 2 years, watching you grow, seeing you take accountability, being co-parents with you, I've fallen in love with you again. Not the old you, but this version. The one who's done the work, who's faced her demons, who fights every day to be better. Tears streamed down her face. You're not being fair. I've accepted that we're over. I've mourned us. I'm trying to build something new. I know. And if you're happy with Robert, I'll support that. I'll be Emmy's dad and your co-parent and nothing more. But if there's any part of you that wonders, what if, I'm telling you I'm willing to try. Not to go back to what we were, but to build something completely new. We sat in silence for what felt like hours. Finally, Linda spoke. I need time. I need to figure out what I want, not what I think I should want or what would fix my past mistakes. Robert is safe. You're terrifying because you're real and complicated and we have history. Give me 30 days. I'll have an answer for you then. Those 30 days were torture. I threw myself into work, into being present for Emmy, into anything that would distract me from wondering about Linda's decision. On day 28 she called. Can we meet? Same park. My heart was pounding as I drove there. She was sitting on our bench looking nervous. I broke things off with Robert, she said. It wasn't fair to him. He deserves someone who's all in, and I couldn't be that person when my heart was still tangled up with you. And now I'm terrified. Paul, what if we try again and I mess it up? What if you can never fully trust me? What if we fail and it destroys Emmy even more? What if we succeed? I countered. What if we build something stronger because we've both learned from our mistakes? What if Emmy gets to see that love can survive even the worst storms? I have conditions, Linda said. We date. Slowly. Emmy doesn't know we're trying again until we're both absolutely certain. We keep therapy, both individual and couples. Complete transparency, phones, schedules, everything. And Paul, if you ever feel yourself unable to trust me, you have to tell me immediately. I won't survive losing you twice. Agreed, I said. My conditions, we set aside weekly date nights no matter what. We check in daily about how we're feeling even when it's uncomfortable. And Linda, you have to forgive yourself. I can forgive you, but if you can't forgive yourself, we'll never make it. We dated for 18 months before I proposed again. This time there was no taking anything for granted. Every date was intentional. Every conversation mattered. We learned each other's love languages, trauma responses, triggers, and dreams. Emmy figured it out before we told her. Are you and Mommy kissing again? She asked one day after Linda dropped her off. Because that would be really, really good. We got married in a small ceremony with just family and close friends. Mark was my best man, the friend whose midnight call had set everything in motion. In his toast he said, I thought I was ending Paul's marriage that night. Turns out I was helping him rebuild something stronger. Linda's vows broke me. Paul, I broke us once. I shattered trust, love, and everything we built. You had every right to walk away and never look back. Instead, you gave me the space to grow, the accountability to heal, and eventually, another chance I never deserved but will spend my life honoring. I vow to choose us every single day, especially on the days when it's hard. I vow to communicate when I feel invisible instead of seeking attention elsewhere. I vow to be the wife our younger selves dreamed I could be. My vows were simpler. Linda, you taught me that love isn't just feeling, it's choice. Every day I choose you. Every day I choose forgiveness. Every day I choose to believe in second chances. Not because our story is perfect but because it's real. We broke, we rebuilt, and we're stronger for it. 5 years after that midnight call from Mark, life looks nothing like I expected. Linda and I co-own a consulting business helping couples recover from infidelity. She speaks at conferences about relationship manipulation and recovery. I teach cybersecurity workshops about protecting yourself online and recognizing digital red flags in relationships. Emmy is 10 now, thriving with a little brother named Michael. She doesn't remember the worst parts. We protected her from that. What she knows is that mommy and daddy love each other, that families can heal, and that mistakes don't define you. Sometimes people ask if I really trust Linda. The honest answer is, not blindly. But I trust the work we've both done. I trust our communication. I trust that she values what we've rebuilt more than any temporary escape. The cryptocurrency investment I made? It's now Emmy and Michael's college fund, worth over $300,000. Linda knows about it now, complete transparency, remember? But she doesn't manage it. Some boundaries remain, and that's healthy. Jim remarried quickly after his divorce, and from what I've heard through mutual acquaintances, he's showing the same patterns with his new wife. Some people never learn. Linda hasn't thought about him in years. He was a symptom, not the disease. The disease was our complacency, our emotional neglect of each other, our assumption that love would sustain itself without effort. Last week, a woman contacted Linda through her consulting website. Another victim of a manipulative affair partner, struggling with shame and the aftermath. Linda spent 3 hours on the phone with her, offering guidance, resources, and hope. Watching her transform her worst mistake into purpose. That's when I feel most in love with her. Our story isn't a typical romance. It's messy, complicated, scarred. But it's ours. And every day we choose it is a day we choose growth over comfort, honesty over pretense, hard work over easy exits. People ask if I've forgiven her. I tell them forgiveness isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. Some days it's easy. Some days I see her phone face down and feel a flash of panic. She knows this. She picks it up, unlocks it, shows me she's just checking Emmy's school app or texting her mom. Transparency isn't about lack of trust. It's about honoring the trust we're rebuilding. This story doesn't have a neat ending because we're still living it. Every day is another page, another choice, another opportunity to prove that love can survive betrayal if both people are willing to do the excruciating work of healing. Would I recommend this path to everyone? No. Some betrayals are too deep, some people don't change, some marriages need to end. But for us, the pain became purpose, the betrayal became breakthrough, and the ending became a new beginning. We've learned that marriage isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, being honest even when it hurts, and choosing each other repeatedly. The first time we married, we were young and naive, believing love would conquer all. The second time, we were scarred and wise, knowing that love requires work, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment. Every anniversary, we returned to that park bench where I proposed both times. We read letters we've written to each other throughout the year, gratitudes, struggles, hopes. It's our ritual, our way of remembering that we're not guaranteed another year, that every moment together is earned. Emmy asked me recently if I was glad Mark made that phone call. I thought about it for a long time before answering. Yes, I told her. Because living in a lie isn't really living. The truth hurt, but it also freed us to become better versions of ourselves. Your mom and I are happier now than we ever were before, because now we're choosing each other with our eyes wide open. That's the unexpected gift of betrayal, I suppose. When everything falls apart, you get to decide what you rebuild and how. We chose to rebuild something honest, something resilient, something worth fighting for. And every day we choose it again. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.